So, we're going to start out with privilege of the floor, and Mike, I see you, and
I'm here.
you do have a couple of agenda items, and I'm
Yes.
going to suggest we'll, in the interest of your time, we'll alter the agenda, and we'll cover your items first, and then we'll go back to the regular agenda.
Awesome. I
Is
think
it
it's
okay
great.
with you?
Yep, that's
All right.
best.
So the first is the question of custodial services at the school and the rec department.
Yeah.
Mark?
So
Mark wants to start.
I gave you a little bit of history in your packet.
Yeah,
Mike and I met with Mark Halloran, John Francis, and Jim Mayhew and discussed this. We've been using this shared position for a couple of years now. The first year it was not very acceptable to the school. We weren't spending a whole lot of time over there, and the cleaning level was not great.
Right.
We didn't have, from the town's perspective, as much of a problem with the sharing that year. Now the roles are kind of reversed.
Well,
We've spent
so
more time,
personnel change.
personnel change,
Right.
we've spent more time at the school during the week,
So-
and now it's not working for the town. So in our estimation, the shared, we've tried it for a couple of years in several different ways, and it's just not, the sharing of the person is not working.
Right. What it comes down to is we've determined that it takes about 30 hours a week of work to maintain the school in that rec department building, that building in itself.
mm-hmm,
Given the town regulations, you have a half an hour lunch and 2 15-minute breaks. So you add that into 5, now you're at 35 hours of work time. That only leaves a small amount left for
Mhm.
any town work. So what I'm proposing for the school budget next year is to put a full-time custodial person there that will cover the entire building, not just the school part, but also the school and rec part. That's what I'm gonna put into the school
And
budget.
then we can go back to the arrangement of, we had a building agreement, a building maintenance agreement with the school district. We can pull that back out and,
Right.
and take that up again.
I don't know.
Well, as far as the hours, when this person would
Oh, you
clean
mean in
and
proportion
the proportion.
the proportion to
Yeah,
the, how much
right,
goes to the
right,
rec and how much
right.
goes to the school?
Right, so,
That's correct.
so
Okay.
the agreement, before we made this agreement, the way we
Right.
did it was the school funded a person, I can't remember, it's 25, 25
Yeah,
25
25
hours.
hours or 30 hours.
Yeah, so about what we have now. So the school funded the person and we also prorated the electricity.
Sure.
So school took
And
half the
heating.
electricity
And
and heating, and town took the rest for the rec department. What we tried to do to make things a lot cleaner was to have the school fund the entire electrical and heating for the building, have the town fund the entire custodial services as a shared service. That hasn't worked.
Is it working so far as the rec department is concerned?
The rec department's happy with the,
Yeah, the cleaning is not an issue. I mean, the building cleanliness this past year has not been an issue. The issue's been, there's been no time for him to be here.
Right,
Right.
so,
And-
so the rec department is getting
Yes, the
taken care
rec
of.
Yes.
is getting taken care of
Okay.
as part of that building,
right, the
yes.
school and the rec is being taken care of.
Now, what does the town need more?
Well, we have historically had we took a position out of Public Works to make this shared position. So a person that worked in the water department, the highways, and the buildings and grounds for the town, we pulled that position out and made it the shared position. So we need this building clean, we need the office space over at the treatment plant clean. We've not been spending any time at the library. So we've got these
And
spaces.
what do you estimate a week you need?
Well, to do that, we need probably
At least 40.
yeah, well, 40 covered, that person did not just do buildings and grounds. They also did recycling, solid waste, water. It was a multi-use position, just like everybody else in Public Works. The buildings and grounds piece was probably 20 hours a week, at least.
Okay.
And then the rest of their time was spent in other departments, and that's the other thing, we have been covering that time that that person used to spend doing the recycling, doing the water and all of that. That was then covered by other people in public works, so we took time out of public works.
Now, do we have the availability of a body right now that can assume more hours, or is everyone full-time what we've got?
Everybody's full-time.
So what you're proposing is we put someone, add an additional person to payroll?
No, we
Okay.
would take the position that we are sharing,
Right,
and he would no longer go over to the.
right, but the school department would put
He's,
some,
he's already
yeah.
in your budget.
right, but
Yes.
you would have to add someone
Yes,
to your
they
would
budget,
add
so the
someone
town
to
is
my
going to have to
budget.
pay for another
Yes,
person.
Whether
the
it's-
payroll,
which budget
right,
you-
whichever
you
budget
have
he's
to-
in, but yes, we are
Well,
proposing.
let me ask you a question. Can we move the individual, I mean, I'm assuming if the work is satisfactory, have him work in the school full-time and add a part-timer, 20 hours a week?
No, because then then the other time, we are still, again, we are down the time that in public works, we had to hire a seasonal person to cover grounds maintenance. We took
Yeah, but that's
him-
the summertime, right?
No,
We-
yes, and we took Dale and paid him overtime for work during plowing so that he could be on the plowing crew. This is a position that we have had in the
Yeah,
town.
well, you did years ago, but we rejuggled stuff, and we're dealing with today, and what I'm hearing is, for the last year, we've had, basically, the individual has spent most of his time in the school, and on what the school wants to do, that's the school's business, all right? The question is, how much do we need for the town? And you're saying it's now 40 when we haven't been spending any time. And I'm saying,
Well,
well,
no, it's
Part of
40.
Dale's was doing the rec department, which is considered the town, which kind of screws up.
well, yeah, but
Anyway,
that
yeah.
piece is going over there.
Yeah,
So
no,
my
no.
question is, how much do we really need to cover the offices, the water department,
Yeah,
the library? You're saying that's a 40-hour
That is
a week
40
job?
yes, it is 40 hours a
I'm
week because it's
struggling.
not just that, Bill. It
Yeah, but
is the
now
other-
you're adding other. Who is doing the other stuff
It is
now?
not getting done.
Well, I can tell
It
you,
is not.
Patty has told me that nobody has ever been over to the library.
Right.
Right,
Since
it's
she's
not-
been
No,
a
I'm
library
not
trustee.
arguing about, I'm
It's not-
trying
I'm
to
not-
just determine
No,
how
no,
much
I-
do we need for cleaning? And
It-
what
it's
you're
not
saying, well,
cleaning.
it's not just cleaning, it's other stuff. And I'm saying, well, what's the other stuff that hasn't been getting done?
Well, we have been paying overtime, or we have not been doing it. Dale has been doing plowing, but it's been on an overtime basis only.
Basis only.
And we had a part-time seasonal person that we would not do in the 2014 budget, which is the summer maintenance. And even with that part-time person, we have not gotten to the library, we have not done a lot of stuff, we have just deferred.
No, I understand what you're saying, and we're at an interesting crossroads here. And the crossroads is, we've gone out of our way to reduce the budget by reassigning personnel and making changes. And what I'm hearing, and I think Bill is hearing, is that you want to go back to the way it was with another full-time equivalent position.
Yes.
Where I have some questions where, from reading this initial thing, you're talking about $4,000 to $5,000 for Dale's overtime.
Mhm.
Now, is Dale happy with the overtime? Does he like the overtime? Do we want to budget Dale for an overtime position? But the idea, as I agree with Bill, the 40 hours, I need to know where that 40 hours is going to go. It would be great to go to the library, but the library is an hour once a week.
Right.
It's
I will
not,
break it down
Okay.
as part of the budget
Because
discussion.
a
I
full-time
understand.
position is going to cost the town. Let's assume that, I mean, the school does whatever it wants, right? But it's $35,000 a year. That's without any overtime or anything else. It's a minimum of about $35,000. And I'm just saying, is that the least expensive solution here?
Right, I mean, I think Mike,
get you
Mike
covered.
brings up a
Yeah,
good point.
right. Let them work more overtime. It's
If-
cheaper
if-
than
if
hiring
you guys
another
wanna-
full-time body.
If we want to continue where we are and just budget overtime, but the overtime, I think, has to be satisfactory to meet the
Well,
town's needs.
obviously,
Because
you
right
can't
now-
make people do what they don't want to
Right.
do.
see, this is the first we're
Mark-
hearing of the town's needs not being met.
Well,
Right.
Mark, it's not my first, because Mark
We're-
and I have been talking about this for
Yeah, but
about 6 months now, where he's saying, we gotta talk, we've gotta deal with the situation.
Right.
You can't have Dale all the time. And I'm saying, well, this is what it's turned
Right.
out to be.
But
So,
now, instead of one Dale, we're up to 2 Dales.
I agree.
And I'm
That's
struggling with, do we need 2 Dales or do we need a Dale and a half?
right.
We already have a Dale with overtime, because it's not just the 4,000 to 5,000. We also spent about 6,000 on the part-time.
Right, no,
The part-time seasonal person, and that's critical, we'd have to leave that in the budget. And we are not doing things that we used to do as far as grounds maintenance and other things, because we took a position out of Public Works and dedicated it that we were not doing before to buildings and grounds. It was a second person for the water department. It was a person that plowed in the winter. It was a person that did highway maintenance if they needed to. Those sorts of things, and I'll lay those out during the budget and show you where we used to do things that we're no longer doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Mark, you know, that we need to understand what isn't getting done right now, and what's your estimate of how much time it takes if we were actually going to get that done,
Right.
you know?
So I think the takeaway here, at least for me on the school budget, is we don't know what to do yet, because one option would be continue where we're at and just budget X amount of overtime for the person that we have in place, and if he's happy with that, we're all happy. What we have right now is not happiness because the budget time's not the overtime's not budgeted and he's getting squeezed. And in fact,
I'm assuming that the school will budget a full-time person. That's what you're saying you need. You need a full-time
yes.
custodian.
we do.
So that you ought to budget. I think the question is Dale that individual?
Well,
Or
we'd love to.
is it a new hire?
Dale's great. So,
Right.
So
So you don't have a problem,
No.
you know, if that's a solution, that's a solution. But the question comes back, what does the town need?
right.
You know?
And so here comes the one option is budget X amount of overtime for Dale to still be that shared service, and he could do the
Right.
30 hours for us and 20 hours for the town, make him 50 hours a week.
You know, I'd say I'm fine. I think it starts with an understanding of what is it that's not getting done that we've lived without for 2 years, and I do understand that we have mental library and all these places and clean them, and that's not acceptable. We should clean these. I'm just wondering if that's 40 hours a week, that's all. But from your perspective, I think you should budget what you believe you need. If
Right.
that's a full-time individual, then I'll go fight when you present the school budget as to justify whether you really need all that cleaning.
Well, at least I'm prepared this
But-
time.
Yes,
So
right.
I'm not blindsided by it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and, you know, Bill's right, what you should do is budget for what you think you
You
need,
need,
whether it's the 40 hours or the 40 hours plus, because you can always back off that later.
Right.
But if you don't go in with, here's what I think I really need, then, you know, it's tough to get money.
where I get screwed up is the rec department is in
Yeah.
the same building.
Correct.
And how do you allocate that time?
So we used to,
No, I mean, we had a formula for allocating
Right.
it, but what's the real equation?
yeah,
What
I'm-
is it, is it 50-50, is it 80-20,
I don't have an answer to that.
you know, because
I
the
don't
gym
know.
throws the whole thing off. It's
Right, the whole area goes, because it's a large area, it's all garbage, you know, the floors. But I think I don't know, I'm not sure how often he's doing the gym, but if you take the gym out of the equation, the floor space and bathroom space, the school has more than the common areas in the rec.
I guess that is significant.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to look into it.
Okay, all right, so Mark, you'll put some stuff together and we'll talk about it in a future meeting? Okay, good. Now, you had one other issue regarding
My
the
second thing is, as
Conservation Commission.
a representative
Yeah.
representative of the Conservation Committee,
Yeah.
I have some help.
Okay,
So one thing I'd like to get the town's opinion on, and I think the way to get the town's opinion on it is through getting something on a warrant article, or at least a discussion or something at the town meeting, is the town has spent a significant infrastructure on laying down these sewer pipes.
Mhm.
And so, as I look at other states and other towns, Massachusetts has if you have a septic system, you cannot change papers anytime that you sell a house. You have to have a telephonic inspection of the septic system to make sure that's the person receiving it is not gonna end up with unforeseen bills. What I'd like to see is we have when you are selling a house, it becomes a requirement that you end up connecting into the septic system. Since the town has laid out all this expense putting it there, it's a shame just to see it go to waste. And I think from the Conservation Committee's standpoint, we have no ability to inspect anybody's septic system, their leach fields. We don't know when it's failing. Most of these houses are part-time houses. They may not know when they're failing. Most of them probably aren't failing, but if there is a problem with the septic system, we don't know what's going on. I mean, in the town as a general has no rights to know what's going on.
What you're suggesting is you want to introduce a warrant article as a kind of sense of the meeting
Yeah.
type of article that would essentially pose the question of whether we should demand that homeowners upon selling their houses, or make a requirement, that homeowners on selling their houses have to absorb the cost of connecting to the sewer.
Correct. And I think as part of doing this, we waive the connection fee for
Transfers?
transfer, sure,
For another year.
for another year, 2 years or
transfer, whatever.
something.
We can extend that. The question I have is, can we instill a regulation that supersedes a state regulation?
No,
Is-
you would not be, the Board of Selectmen are the controlling,
Right.
they control the water and sewer regulations. So this would be a sense of the meeting vote, so that you would know whether the town was in favor of it or not in favor of it. Okay, so that you could come back and make the appropriate changes to the water and sewer regulations.
Right. The,
But
this, okay.
You can
there is,
require.
the issue is, the concern is the septic systems may not be functioning properly. Or is there a concern that if they are functioning properly, that's not adequate? Because what we've been told all along is if they're functioning correctly, there is no problem at all with leaving these septic systems in place.
Yeah,
They're Far enough away from the river, there's no issue.
No issue there
So
whatsoever.
the issue is a concern. So would it be acceptable to make it a requirement that you have to have your unit, have to have it inspected before it can be sold and certified?
And that's kind of like what the Massachusetts.
Yeah, but the
telephone
Massachusetts law is a lot more stringent, where the Massachusetts law is uniform and it has a specific set of guidelines that all septic systems must meet.
Mhm.
The question I have here is if someone comes in and New Hampshire does not have these specific guidelines, who is the one who's gonna determine what the guidelines are?
Right.
And will they hold up in a court of law when the first person we say, you've gotta change it?
Right.
And they go, no, you can't.
New Hampshire has a set of laws and regulations on septic systems. The state DES is the one that regulates the septic systems, and they're the ones that permit them. But they have no annual inspection or whatever, biannual or
They
whatever.
permit the
They
design.
permit the design.
Right.
And it gets installed by a licensed
Right.
person to that standard.
Right.
But after it's installed, there's no state inspection. So
Right.
we can go beyond, the town is allowed to go beyond and make regulations that are more stringent than the states. Okay, so you could add to the water and sewer regulations the need for this annual
Right.
inspection or this inspection before it's sold,
Sure.
however you wanted to do it.
The ultimate goal of this, however,
Right.
and from my standpoint, is the town has invested a significant amount of money, and the federal government has invested a significant amount of money putting the sewer pipes in place. And we, as residents of the town and residents of the country, have paid for it. And it's just, we need to have some motivating way to get people to use the infrastructure that we have paid so much for, including the wastewater treatment plant. I guess there was just recent upgrades there. So I think it's, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a geologist, but I would say that our wastewater treatment plant is probably a better way to treat sewage than than a septic system. I don't know, it's just a gut
Yeah,
feeling for me.
there's no problem with the wastewater treatment plant.
Right.
I mean, the,
This-
first of all,
and it's monitored, and if there is a problem, it's addressed. Where septic
introducing a
systems,
resolution, introducing a resolution along the lines of what you want.
Mhm.
At the last end of the meeting, as a sense of the meeting type of resolution, is the Conservation Commission can certainly do that.
Mhm.
It does not need the Board of Selectmen's approval. You could just introduce it. And you can get a vote, you get a sense of the meeting. What you're gonna have is 6 or 7 people screaming.
Mhm.
Everybody else, they're indifferent, they don't care.
right, because
But there are 6 or 7 people
owners
who, when
that-
given a choice to have it done for free, wouldn't do it.
I
You know,
understand.
I doubt if their positions have changed. So, so imposing upon them when they've been told for the last 2 years that as long as your system is functioning, that once it did fail, then you had no choice. I mean, there are gonna be some indignant people, but that doesn't prevent you from, you can introduce the resolution and we'll see how the vote is.
Do you want them to just do it under reports of boards and commissions or other,
Well,
business?
You tell me,
Or do you want a separate warrant article that says what they want?
well, if they did a warrant article,
Yeah.
would that be mandatory then? That if it was
No.
a favorable vote, or is it a sense of
No,
the meeting?
we can write it so that it will be a sense of the meeting.
Well, could you
Yeah.
write it the other way, so that it becomes a requirement?
Yes, you can, absolutely.
Well, does that need the approval of the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
Or
That-
it
it's
needs a
your warrant.
petition.
Or it needs a petition, one way or the other. The
Well,
sense of
it's
the
up to
meeting,
you
you're
what you
not-
wanna do.
The sense of the meeting, you can write in that it is a non-binding vote.
Right,
And then you can write anything you want, and it doesn't matter if it
Right.
passes unanimously.
right.
It's still only, it's only to give you information as the Board of Selectmen, that's it.
Yeah, I think we do it as non-binding, and I'd also like to get a letter out to our town council
Mhm.
to see if this is defeasible.
Okay.
That if we actually enacted it, could we enforce it?
The other thing I was thinking about just sitting here is we have a couple of properties that haven't been built on out there.
Right.
Well,
And
it'd be ludicrous for them to put a septic
They're not-
system in,
those-
because that's way
But-
more expensive than
The ordinance
connecting.
would not allow.
The
Okay.
ordinance
The
wouldn't
current
allow it,
ordinance
but they
would
don't
not
have
allow
work
them to do
separate.
anything other than
Okay.
connect.
all right.
The ordinance, as I remember, it basically reads that if you're there and on a septic system now, you can stay on that septic system as long as it doesn't fail.
That's right.
If it does fail, you've got within X number of days,
I
right?
think it's 90 or 100.
Yeah, unless it's the dead of winter or some choice or some place where you can't dig. I mean, but you've got within a period of time to do it.
To connect,
And I don't
not to
know,
repair.
what we'd have to be prepared, even with the sense of the meeting, is how many people potentially are affected by this? Because I think it's more than just the handful of people up in the north end.
There may be a few on Boulder Path Road, but
Right.
there aren't many. But
Right.
we will count
Boulder
have to
Path
get
is
all
the
the-
one that goes past the tennis courts?
to the
Yeah.
cemetery.
Right, right, so yeah, there might be,
There might be 3 or 4 on
My
that
house is
line
one of the
and-
ones affected.
My preference would be, and I would recuse myself
about-
from voting, if the other 2 selectmen wanted to,
Oh.
because I have to recuse myself.
I have
all
to-
three of you are affected in this.
Right,
No,
so,
I'm not.
No,
she's
Well, I
not.
know,
she's
well,
connected.
because you've connected.
We had to go get another board the last time we dealt with this issue because none of us could vote on it.
Yeah,
Right, so then I think you have no choice to do but a sense of the meeting. I
Right.
would propose, see, I'd rather do it the other way. But that would mean you'd have to raise a petition. You'd have to get a
10
warrant
votes.
article, you'd have to write the warrant
Write the
article,
warrant
and then
article.
you'd have to get signatures on a petition
10, I think
to
it's
get
10
it
voters.
onto the meeting. You'd have to get 10 voters to sign your petition that says, we want this change. Otherwise, you put the selectmen back in the position of, so let's suppose the vote comes out positive, 50-50 or something. We're back having to make a decision. I just assume the residents realize
And-
that
and-
when the people are screaming, that you know, that it isn't like the selectmen gets to decide whether for them to screen.
It's the town.
It's
was
the
the
town as a whole said, you do it, you have no choice, let them tell their neighbor.
And I will ask town
Yeah, I just wanna
council-
make sure
So-
we can
So
enforce it.
I will
Yeah.
need help, drafting the warrant article and going, I can get the.
Mark, you can help
Do
with
you
that,
want,
right?
if you're okay with me helping him, I'm willing
He
to
has,
help.
they have, the Conservation Committee has every right to do that.
Okay.
It doesn't involve the Board of Selectmen in any way.
So I'll do a, we'll,
Do a draft.
we'll do a
and
draft,
Yeah.
and then I'll go
And you
see,
don't wanna
I'll go
look
see
at
if
the
I can get 10
draft or anything.
signatures.
For the
You're gonna
petition.
put a draft petition up, you have a
Just
right
have
to do that.
Jay look at it.
We'll just have town council.
And what you're
yeah.
gonna have, basically, it's basic, you're not gonna have any opinion on the part of the Board of Selectmen relative
Correct.
to
There
this.
will be no statement that the board approves
Or
yeah,
disapproves.
recommend- Yeah, right. Okay, there just won't be a recommendation.
I think that's
Find out what people want.
probably the
That-
best
that's-
way to go.
That's all I want, I wanna find out what people want. I mean.
Well, no, it's gonna make, this, it's not what they want. This would then, you'd have to write it that you've got a period of time to do it.
Well,
No,
he's saying
what I'm
do it
saying is
on
on
the
sale.
Do it at the time of
Oh,
sale.
time of sale. No,
So
So, I
that,
mean, but, and the reason why, that lowers the burden of cost, because you're selling the house anyways, you're probably gonna get some money out of the house. And it's not a
Either
foreseeable
way,
future.
the 25 to 30,000 it's gonna cost you, you're gonna pay it.
It cost me 9, so it wasn't that bad, nine or
Yeah,
10.
that varies by lot.
Yeah.
You know?
True.
And we can
And
also
the
work out
problem,
a
there's
trigger where we
some that
can,
are very expensive to
Yeah.
connect, there's some that are not.
we can also work out some triggers that will waive the tap fee.
oh,
For people that
absolutely.
are
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
involved in this,
right,
so it doesn't seem
right.
like we're out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right. But I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Okay,
Because I don't know how we're gonna deal with it as a group of Board of Selectmen. We'd have to appoint an interim board
We
just to
did-
deal
we
with
did.
this issue.
Yeah.
But you're not hooked up, right?
No.
No.
okay, we'll work on the petition.
Okay. Got it.
Thank you.
Those are my 2.
Actually, I've got an interesting situation.
Anything else on privilege of the floor? Yeah, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
have 2 septic systems at my house.
You do,
I do,
right?
yes.
Wow. Are you connected to both?
Yeah, both of them are 2 working septic systems. And what would happen if one failed? Could I just?
Well,
use the
you
other
could
one?
just use the other one.
You could use the other one as long as it supports the number of bathrooms or
Oh, yeah,
the
no,
size of
it's,
your house.
it was strange. We didn't understand it until they told us this.
You sure you have septic systems?
Oh, I
Your
have,
house
I
is
have
pretty
2
old.
I have 2 septic
They have
systems.
55
Or is it a-
gallon.
Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Pump
both
relay.
of the cess pools were pulled out and
Oh,
replaced by
okay.
septic
You have
systems.
two leach fields,
Yes. One on either side of the house.
Well, I'll be
and
darned.
the reason for that is?
I guess the old house went to one side, and when he built the new addition, he put another system in to cover that.
It depends on how he sized the second system,
Right.
because it's based on bedrooms.
Well, if,
And if it was, how many bedrooms do you have?
4.
4. So you have septic capacity for at least 4, maybe 5 bedrooms,
Oh, yeah, I have 1,500 on one side, and I think 1,200 on the other.
okay? But whatever the size is, if you lost half of, if
Right.
you lost one side,
Oh, no, I
you would
got you.
technically be in failure because of the number of bedrooms.
I know, I've got you on that.
Okay.
You're good?
I'm good with it, sounds like a good plan.
All right, so let's take, okay, if there's no other privilege of the floor, we're gonna back up and take a look at the minutes of the meeting of October 9th.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I had one thing on that.
We'll be in touch relative to the situation regarding the school.
Yes,
But you, conceptually, you know what to do.
right. We're gonna start budgeting for it now, and then if we have to change it, we have time until February.
Okay. Minutes of October 9th, I was
Yeah.
not here. I read them, I didn't see
Yeah,
anything.
I've got
else.
one thing that's a question, and glad it's here. Slip lining, flexible hoses inserted over the existing piping, isn't it inserted in the existing piping? That was the only thing I had.
I didn't see anything.
Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
You're gonna second it?
I think so.
Well, you better vote on it now, because I'm abstaining. All right.
Aye.
I,
Financial update.
Okay, we are doing well through the year. Revenue-wise, we have a couple of line items that are actually ahead of budget. You will have the option when we do tax rate setting to either plus up our estimates or keep this and then it'll go to the general fund balance. But that's just something to keep in mind when you look at these numbers here. Also, we received notice today, if you look at our detailed budget, the meals and rooms taxes, because those are not set until this time every year, we always carry $0.
In
Because we
terms of
don't
income
know
from
as
our
terms of
state's
revenue,
portion for it, yeah.
We've been notified that we're gonna receive $10,980.
What did we
From the
receive in
state.
previous years?
It's varied anywhere from 10 to 15,000.
Okay.
So, but there have been years when they've talked about not giving us anything, so that's the reason we carry
Where is this?
0. It's actually part of the state revenues.
State revenues.
So that 18,500 is just our highways and our state block grant for sewer installations
Okay.
from a long time ago. So that line item will be almost $11,000 ahead of our budget. So again, that's another one that we can adjust at the tax rate setting time if you would like. So, however you want to handle it.
Okay, so
Expenditure,
at the time we do tax
Yeah.
rate setting, we'll decide what to do.
yes.
Okay,
And on the expenditure side, again, we've talked about most of these departments. Do you have any questions? The bond anticipation notes, that'll be an adjustment at the end of the year.
I don't believe I have, Mike or?
No, no,
Tom,
no.
any questions?
Department heads are doing a good job.
As usual.
Yes, right. Okay, all right.
So I mentioned tax rate setting. I should by tomorrow have the tax rate setting information.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have another meeting scheduled until November 13th. I would like to have a special meeting when I get the information from the state because I would like to set the tax rate in October so we can get the bills out prior to November 1st so that we can have a due date as close to December 1st as possible.
When would you like to do that, Mark?
Well, I don't know when I'm gonna get the information from the
Right.
state, so I'd like to
Just so you're
email you.
aware, I'm not going to be here from November 3rd to the 9th.
Okay,
So if we could hold it before then,
oh yeah, I definitely, I'm hoping I'll
that
get
would
it,
be next week.
yeah, I'm
yeah.
hoping to get it next week, so I will let our DRA
And this would,
rep
this
know.
wouldn't, this would just be a few minutes, right,
Few
to
minutes.
discuss that.
Yeah, half an hour.
But I think we ought to do it we ought to discuss this concept of strategic planning session. And if we wanted to do that, maybe we ought to try to combine those two into a special meeting of some
Sure.
type.
If you
Or
like.
otherwise, you're not gonna have any budget setting time.
Right.
Right,
I would like to sit down with the department heads as soon as we can.
right. Well, since we're on that, why don't we talk about that now? It was, I read your notes there with suggestion that we might want to have a meeting between the department heads and the Board of Selectmen to basically talk about some guidance, I guess, providing, our
Yes.
typical guidance on budgets, don't increase
Don't
anything.
increase anything, right. Well, and I think we're getting to the point, Bill, and I've been looking at the history,
Yeah,
and it's just like the personnel stuff. We need to just, the department heads need to lay out on the table, here's what we have, here's what we do, here's
Right.
where we think we should go. you know, you guys need to say, well, we want you to focus on this particular thing or whatever it is. But we should have those discussions before we start putting the budget together.
I think that
So-
would be a
Yeah.
worthwhile meeting to
Yes.
have, and along the lines of what you just said. Here's where we are today. This is just, briefly. I
Yeah.
mean, this is the staffing and manpower and what they do. Here, and if I had to look at my top 4 or 5 issues or things that I'm concerned about, that we need to talk about whether we want to do these or not.
Right.
Make up that kind of a list. And, and whether they're capital items or, ongoing
Whatever,
expense items.
Right.
And we would go through, we'd have 3, 4 departments, 4 basically presentations that we'd have to go through.
Yeah, I was hoping that we could do it all.
Yeah, all in one day.
Yeah.
But I meant that we would cover admin,
Right.
public safety,
Mhm.
building,
Public Works, which
Public Works
includes
and
solid
Rec.
waste, right. Solid waste, wastewater treatment.
well, that's all part
That's
of,
all,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
all.
right,
Public
on one,
Works.
okay.
And, I
Hires.
think it would be good for the department heads. I know in the past, I think we've met with the department heads individually, but it might be good for the department heads to
To sit through
hear,
the whole thing.
Right.
to sit
Yeah,
through the whole
absolutely.
thing and hear what everybody else is dealing with as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we planned on an hour, if we planned on about 3, 4 hours to do that?
I would say at least.
At least.
Yeah.
4
I would
hours.
make it a day.
Well, then the
Because if
question
we're
is,
really
where
gonna
can we
get into
find the
this-
day?
Or,
Budget,
or
whose
we could do it
budget's
over
lunch
2
coming
days.
out of?
I'll take care of that.
Well,
Because I think we've got some issues we're really gonna need to address. We've heard about this with the manpower as far as the cleaning issue with this. We've also got Tom's new position, how that integrates
right,
with things where that takes over. Rec department is in a state of flux because the people who they've had
Are gone.
are gone.
all of them?
And
Some of them.
Well,
So the
all
two new
but
ones.
2. We got a full-timer and a part-timer, and those are the 2 that are left.
Yeah, Rachel and Liz are left,
Rachel and Liz.
and Andrew, of course.
Oh, that's
Andrew,
right, the
yeah,
adult, the adult person?
Yeah, she left.
And then you also had a question about adding back some administrative
Right,
Well, right,
assistance.
yeah.
right.
So, Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
let's
we-
take a look at calendars and see if we come up with some days here. The best for me, if we tried to do it next week, would be the Wednesday, the 30th.
I actually have something Wednesday the 30th out of town.
How about Monday? Or Tuesday? Thursday and Friday is difficult.
Friday, I can't do Friday.
Friday is difficult. How about Monday, Tuesday,
Monday
and
and
Wednesday?
Tuesday are both good for me. Mike said
Mike?
he couldn't do
Just-
Wednesday.
Just, I've got to figure out how to throw a day out.
Sure.
Monday and Tuesday are good for me.
How about,
Wednesday,
could you
Thursday.
get ready by Monday?
Yeah, I think
Tuesday.
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 The one appointment I have, I can change. I can get it off. I can just change my appointment.
Tuesday.
What time would you like to start? 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock would be good. And
9
we'll-
o'clock. Can you arrange for some coffee or something?
We'll have coffee and we'll have
All right.
some lunch.
Okay, so this is Tuesday, 29.
9 a.m. And yeah, we'll kind of have a free-flowing discussion, but we'll talk about some
Well,
guidance.
yeah, I'll
going
bring
forward.
in some, our organization and.
Right.
Yep, all that. And we'll get some paper and we'll talk.
Okay. Good suggestion.
You,
Okay,
I'm good.
all right.
Because you don't have to have your budget done.
No,
That's
You have to
no,
do
just-
the thinking about,
right, how we put it together.
Yeah,
right.
Well, and this is good because we'll be finished with the subcommittee of the planning board. And they'll have a CIP draft
And-
that will go to the planning board, and you guys will bring that in and we can talk about the capital portion too.
Right.
Yeah.
But if somebody looks at their, and say, look, here's my current head count, blah, 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 and I'm okay with that. You know, and I look at what we're doing
Yep.
service-wise, you know, that could be end of discussion for that
Right,
department.
exactly,
You know, we're not asking them to go back and justify what they have now.
right.
It's like, okay, here's your
Changes.
chance, you think you're on demand and you need more resources, let's hear about it.
Absolutely.
And if there is a special capital item, I mean, you know, in addition, you know, like, what
There
we
are
would
several.
like is $1 million for the new fire truck, no, you can't have it.
Right. Yes, right. No, we understand. Yep. Okay.
Okay. All right. Department head updates. We've got one department head.
I don't have a whole heck of a lot. The only thing I can tell you is about, that would be new. I have a tentative tank delivery date of the 26th of November. And we'll have a better handle on the construction schedule because we have a pre-construction meeting, I believe is the first, next Friday.
So I'm sure we've asked you this before. It's not an issue to take the roof off in the middle of the winter?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Make sure that gets in the record.
We're trying to get this done by before the start of the official winter, obviously. It's,
I mean, it would be, it's not impossible to have a snowstorm on the 27th. I mean, it's not likely,
in
but,
fact, I think we had one at Halloween last year.
yeah,
We had
right.
20th 2 years ago, we had a significant one.
Yeah.
So, but I think that, I think if the chosen company goes about this the way I think they'll go about it, they'll get a lot of work done prior to
Okay,
the removal of the roof. The removal of the roof is more to facilitate the installation.
Right.
Not necessarily the getting the old tanks out.
right. But it's also fair to say that most of the equipment in there could probably stand out in the weather for a few days and not be terribly affected by it. It's, we don't heat that area anyway, right?
No, well, and not to the degree that you would heat, you know,
Right.
normally. But I wouldn't suspect that we'd have too many problems because you would have problems if it was going to be 0 degrees for an extended period of time. So I don't foresee that.
And could you tell us, is Dana gonna start with the water pits or?
We are
Waiting
trying to
we're
get-
waiting
waiting for
for
this.
rural development to give us the go-ahead. We're all set. Dana's all set. We've met with, the condo associations that we need to. We will not get every pit installed this
No.
fall, but we're just waiting for rural development to give us the go-ahead.
Is there, it's just that we wait or
We just
or
have
are
to
we
wait.
missing something?
We can't move ahead without their okay.
Well, I understand, but they, I
We're
thought
not
they had
missing-
approved all of this.
No, they have, but they, again, had to review the contract documents, and they had to look at his bid bond, and all of that stuff got put on hold for 2 weeks, and,
And to recover
They
from
have
being on furlough.
yeah, they have all
Couldn't
of the
find the coffee
information.
filters.
Bill, they have all of the information from
Okay.
us, and we're just waiting for them to get back to us.
I had a question. The new solar light,
Mhm.
is it working?
Yes, but it's not shutting off.
Yes, it's,
It doesn't shut off.
it seems, and I've had the night duty officer, check these for me. I'm not quite sure what is going on with that particular light because it will be off in the morning when I go by, then somewhere around noontime it wants to come on. So I think there's a,
It didn't seem as bright as the other one that we put in.
mm,
I've been by and seeing on, and then
Mhm.
other times I've been by in the dark and it hasn't been
Hasn't
on.
been
So it's,
Yeah.
that's the reason I
I
asked the
did
question.
call Doug Johnston and let him know about it. Called him yesterday. He was gonna call the company and see, what the deal was with the.
They were trained by, Johnston was
Yeah, they had to
trained
take
by
a
the
class,
company,
yeah.
so
Right,
they
I-
had to take a class.
As
so-
I heard, there was a wrong part sent with it, and that's why it's not functioning the way it
There,
should be.
no, we did not put the wrong part in.
Oh,
We waited for the right part and then put that in, and then that,
We have the correct part.
It's gotta be the time of the year, Halloween, you must have.
it was the
Yes,
full
the
moon,
school,
I'll blame it on the full moon.
It's gotta be, you installed it on a full moon?
Right.
That's the
That's it.
problem.
That's it.
That's it.
so we didn't buy the anti-vampire warranty?
No, we forgot about that one. Hate that when that happens.
No more water breaks, no more road erosion, anything?
None that I'm aware of.
Any road damage going to be caused by all the big trucks coming in up on Boulder Path to get to that construction site?
Nope.
Okay, good.
They did I should tell you, the BBTS project did connect into sewer. I believe they'll be tapping into water tomorrow. I mean, that's, they did do a road cut. The guys did a nice job. They connected to the sewer like I asked them to do, so I thought they had a good crew. They did a nice job.
Okay. Anything else, any other department?
Yeah, I just got the
I
information
have,
for
obviously,
November for the
I've seen a
rec.
lot of things coming out of rec.
Yeah.
But we have lost our,
We have lost our adult. She had another job opportunity in her training, her field of study in, down in Virginia, and
okay,
has moved down there, I guess is leaving tomorrow, I believe. So we have advertised for that position. We also lost our primary 20-hour-a-week person, who has been Amanda Donahue, who has been here for probably 4 or 5 years at least, maybe longer.
3 or 4.
Yeah, or 3 or 4,
3 or 4.
right. So
okay,
we're also advertising that. So,
All right.
Rachel just told me this afternoon that she has 3 people who are very qualified, mostly from PSU, that are very interested in the position, have the flexibility to do weekends and everything else. And she said it's actually a difficult decision who to choose
Okay,
from the
good.
3. So.
is it, PSU has a program in?
Well, they're now a more high adventure.
Adventure
outdoor-
programming,
It's adventure
outdoor
programming.
education.
Yeah, rather than the outdoor education program that they had before, right? They changed their.
That's
focus.
correct. The department also has a history of working with students from like the childhood education programs as well. So not just specifically the recreation field.
It would seem that,
So we're
interns and the
reaching
rest,
out,
I mean,
yeah.
that some of those programs would be looking to place people to
We,
give them some
we actually,
experience, right?
we
Yeah.
have had on and off interns or people that needed
Right.
to do.
I'm not suggesting we don't pay
Yeah.
them, but
No.
because I don't like that policy.
Right. We've had
Hiring
them.
3
Yeah,
people,
we've had them.
yeah, okay.
From the
I
education
assumed you did.
So we're actively trying to find people.
Okay.
And we're, if you have any ideas, if you would email me or whatever.
Sure.
I'm thinking we're looking for resort people, for people who maybe event coordination, not necessarily just rec people. This adult team
I will
position is.
put out the word. There were a lot of people that suggested, why don't we hire somebody that was experienced in this? Here's their chance to,
Yeah.
to volunteer.
Okay.
Okay,
And as far as public safety goes, the guys are cleaning and moving stuff.
Okay.
It's been pretty quiet. They've been doing vehicle and equipment maintenance, and trying to get their end of year holiday and vacation balances off the books. So a lot of the guys are taking some time. It's a good quiet period for them to
Okay.
do that.
I see under new business, the unemployment workers' compensation review.
Yeah,
Can I just ask
Go on,
one
please.
thing? Do we have an election day coming up, or we
No,
have to be at the polls?
no election.
No, okay,
No elections coming up.
okay.
Yeah, we are not, is there an election?
In some, I think Manchester has an election,
But
maybe
there are not
Nashua, but
even, not
there's
even
not,
state reps,
no,
and
no
there's
state,
no local, any of
no,
that, nothing.
nothing. No, not this year.
Okay, good.
A good time. A good time. All right, so unemployment workers' comp insurance review, I just wanted, we will be talking about it probably in more detail during the budget. You'll see how it's impacted, but I just wanted to let you know that we've done, pretty good job. Our loss experiences and the loss ratios you'll see for 2013 are either down or zero. That's because we haven't had any losses.
Mhm.
On the workers' comp side, I questioned a little bit why, if we had a negative payroll and we had a negative loss adjustment, why our total bottom line went up even though it was a pretty small amount. And that was because of the medical costs associated with workers' comp, because their health costs are going up along with everybody else's.
Okay.
And the fact that we have several cases from we go back 5 years.
Right.
So we have a couple in the 4 and 5 year period that are going to be leaving our books, within the next 2 years. Those are still holding us up. So our loss ratio adjustment factor there, that minus 1.1, actually would have been higher or lower. It would have been a bigger negative number had we not had these reserves that we've been holding on to. And we need to know that the recent workers' comp claim with the injury in public safety is going to be affecting workers' comp significantly for the next 5 years, because we had a big payout this year, which will hit us next year, and then we'll have significant reserves because of the nature of the injury for a further 4 years after that. And we're so small that when we have
Sure.
even one
Have one,
claim,
yeah.
it really skews us,
Yeah.
so. And then I got it after I did the agenda, but I included in your packet our health trust numbers,
Right,
which are, I think very favorable given the current
certainly look that
climate.
way.
0% increase on our dental and a guaranteed maximum rate increase of 7.5%
On the
for
medical.
medical.
Okay.
And we've had 2 individuals change their coverage and take the opt-out, so that the health trust is looking for board members to serve. 3 of the 7, 8, 11 people, 3 of the 11 are municipal officials, which include selectmen. If you're interested in serving, we can certainly put your name in the hat. I think they
Now,
would
this
be
is to
happy.
do what?
This is the Health Trust Executive Board, so.
Oh.
That truly sounds exciting.
They-
This is an opportunity to enhance your resume.
That's right.
This is one where you don't
So-
want to put your hands
But
up to scratch.
I just wanted to let you know that they're electing a full
Okay.
board of directors this year. So they are looking for all 11 of these positions, and 3 of them are municipal officials. So
Right.
if you are interested, let me know, and I will get back to the Health Trust, and I'm sure they would be happy to have names.
The health trust is under quite a bit of
Yes, they are.
pressure, are they
Yes,
not?
they are.
Yes.
It's probably not where you would want to go, but
All right,
anyway,
All right.
it's
okay,
exciting.
appreciate that. I take it there's no privilege of the floor. Board concerns and directives. Anything, Marty?
Did you hear anything back on the garbage enclosure? No,
No.
No,
I was expecting to see Neil Grover over Columbus Day weekend, and I didn't.
you did not. Okay, so you haven't talked to
I
him
haven't
yet?
spoken to
Would
him.
you like me to send him an email about it?
I will send him an email, but I
Okay.
kinda told him that I would deal with it, when I get home, I'll do something.
Okay, Mike, do you want to talk about the event and the Forest Service?
Yeah.
I sent you that last
Right,
email.
and did you get my email today? I sent
I-
it to your home address instead of
I
your
have
home
not.
email and the other one.
I have not gotten it.
What I was asking is if you can get a hold of Paul Johnson maybe, and see if he has the overlays that we could maybe get for. Remember Paul from Mountain
Yeah.
Mapping came in?
Mhm.
What's going on is, everything looks like it's moving forward. The issue is the Forest Service, they've been shut down. He said he can't meet with them until November,
The end of November.
end of November. And Mark Walter wants to get this announced by December 1st at the latest. So I've given Mark the application, he's got the application, and we're gonna try to do what we can to rush it.
Issue with the Forest Service, you need their approval to
Yeah,
run up bikes through their trails?
It's actually more running than bikes.
Okay.
I don't know.
But he
what-
needs their approval to get to do what he wants to do, and if he can't do that, he can't advertise it the way he wants to advertise it. So
Okay.
hopefully we're gonna pull it through. I sent you a request for the maps of the trails, if you can get that to him, I don't know.
Okay, all right, yeah, we can maps of the trails to Mark.
Right, actually, let me cover this email back to your WV manager.
Okay,
But we're there, everybody's moving ahead, the Resort Association loves the idea.
I got a question from the
Sure.
Forest Service, whether or not Chris Sununu knows about this.
Chris has been informed.
Okay.
Whether we need him to get involved, let me know.
Well, it's the ski group from the Forest Service that asked me whether or not part of this event would be held on the Nordic trails. I said yes, and the other question was, does the ski area know about this? And I said, yes, it's been brought to the Resort Association, and I believe Chris or a representative of the ski area was there, but I didn't have personal
Right.
knowledge.
Chris was there, Chris got a
Okay.
very abbreviated, so if you wanted to talk to Chris,
But he's
I-
not conceptually opposed to this idea.
not at all.
No, Chris,
Yeah.
I think he's been very supportive.
He's supportive,
Yeah.
we'll get it, he's supportive.
Yeah, okay.
All right, barring that, I think we are going to go into non-public at 4 o'clock for the purposes of discussing a residency application.